The Boer War. Well, breaks out in October of 1899, and actually the Boers were the ones who declared war on the British. And it was a preemptive move because the British already had troops on the, on ships headed for South Africa, and it was simply that the British wanted to impose their rule over these Dutch farmers who simply wanted to be left alone and be farmers.
Good heavens, what do we have here?
Oh my lord.
Sergeant, that man's tunic is undone.
Quite undone.
His puttee is coming undone.
Where do you think you are, man? Button up that tunic!
Scraping the bottom of the barrel here.
Yeah, someone take charge of that weapon. Thank you. This one's a kish. That explains it. Heat!
Problem was, under their farmland was gold, and already had been diamonds in part of the Boer territory, and the British wanted to control the gold and went through any amount of machinations to, and at one point actually taken over one of the Boer republics. And Boers fought, got that back, but in October of 1899, the Boers attacked what British forces were in South Africa, and a number of successes early on. But unfortunately, the Boers bogged down trying to encircle and lay siege to several of the towns in South Africa, and that was kind of their undoing, because had they kept moving and just pushed the British out and left the, like around Ladysmith, so forth, it probably would have worked out better for the Boers, but the British eventually got enough men and materiel, and it was the weight of the men and materiel which then gave the British enough drive to drive across South Africa, and by June of 1900 then had forced the Boers to capitulate. Well, the Boers did. About a third of them gave up, a third of them just sort of sat on the sidelines, but at least a third, if not a half of them, said no, we're not going to give up. And despite peace, not a peace treaty, but a surrender, they were called the bitter enders. And they fought until the guerrilla war, a very, very bitter guerrilla war until 1902. And the only way the British could really defeat them was to go in and burn their farms, take their women and children, put them in concentration camps, and string barbed wire and compartmentalize the Boers. But they fought with, and they're all volunteers. Nobody's getting paid on the Boer side. Now, several of us here are representing the 350, approximately 350 Irish who rode as volunteers with the Boers as the Irish Transvaal Brigade. And this was really an arm of the whole Irish nationalist movement that was starting at that time throughout Ireland, the Gaelic language and cultural revival, and the idea that, we're going to form a nation once again, our own nation. And the same major who led the Irish Boers then plays a major role in the Irish Easter Rising of 1916.
Go.
Fire!
All right, gents, now's the time. Rise up.
Rise up!
We're going to move to the left, around that berm. Advance.
line, number 1 section. To the rear, advance to the rear, yeah.
No problem.
Today, lads! Reform, you midline! To the left, press to the left! Rise up! Shirk as a coward, lads! Rise up, rise up, rise up, lads! Come on, man! Careful, John. Twice in the same day in the same arm! Ah! Move me blinking thumb off!
Thank you very much. Well, here we are, convalescing
Convalescing, are you in
from
here?
the veldt of Africa.
Well, let's see. We're nurses, yes, in the Boer War. Some nurses would be sent to the area with the British Red Cross. We wouldn't be right on the front lines, but we would be, as Meredith said before, at a clearing station. And so we have a nice little display here of where, you know, soldiers would recover after being taken away from the front lines of, you know, the fighting. Where they could recover. You know, there's no surgery right here. They're just recovering here from what they've gone through. So we have, you know, some nice little things. They could write letters, they could have tea, they could play games while they're, you know, passing the time while they're convalescing, yes.
From a tactical point of view, I would say that we may have met with a slight reverse. But certainly nothing that we can't repeat until our overwhelming numbers crush their underwhelming numbers.
Got any more of that red stuff?
Yes.
Thank you.
More red stuff?
What happened today was a minor setback that will be forgotten in the annals of history, I'm sure.
This event had started up in northern New Jersey quite some years ago as an outgrowth of a Victorian weekend. As far as I know, this is the only Boer War living history program in all of the Americas. There are some, of course, in South Africa and in England, but this is the only one over here. And it's a great opportunity to come out and really interface with the public and teach them about a war that a lot of them who come here have no idea what the Boer War. Well, it really doesn't play into American history, and so you can't really expect people to know the Boer War of South Africa. So it's a good opportunity for some more historical education.